Recently, we just got a stupid amount of information for the future of the Little Nightmares series. On June 24th, Bandai Namco hosted a live stream where the developers of Little Nightmares shared updates about the third game, comic books, podcast series, and a bunch of other projects relating to the games that we had no idea about until this live stream. Some of them expanding on plans for the series from more than 5 years ago that everyone assumed were cancelled. The biggest and most expected reveal from the show was the reveal of the release date for Little Nightmares 3, which is October 10th of this year. So if that's what y'all were here for, you guys can just click off now. Okay guys, get out of here. Okay, now that there's like 3 of you left, the release date also came with a trailer showing off the carnival section of the game. And don't even worry about it. I won't waste your time going through this trailer shot by shot like all the big YouTubers do. We're just gonna get right into the interesting stuff. So first off, we can see the eye symbol associated with the signal tower from Little Nightmares 2 in a few different places, in the front of the carnival attractions, as well as twice on the kiosk of this decapitated ticket taker. Throughout this trailer, we also get quite a few shots of a roller coaster filled with what looks like body bags that Lo and Alone get on at what I guess is the midpoint of the level, which likely acts as an introduction to the level's main monster, who is only hinted at in this trailer, as the roller coaster stops just before his silhouette is shown. And the running theory online right now is that this guy is actually Roger, the janitor from the original Little Nightmares. And this does seem pretty likely for a couple reasons. The obvious ones being that the silhouette from this trailer is actually a pretty close match to the janitor. Notice the big ears, narrow shoulders, angular head, and asymmetrical proportions. It also kind of looks like this character is wearing the same type of hat as the janitor. Lo and Alone are even in cages when this character is shown, which, you know, is kind of the janitor's thing. The presenters even said, we might see a return of a Little Nightmares fan favorite right after talking about the new trailer, which certainly makes this all seem more likely. There's also the description for the janitor from the original Tarsier Studios website from way back in 2017, which says, with long forgotten things from long forgotten places, the janitor fled the world and found the maw. So if Little Nightmares 3 is yet another prequel set before the first 2 games, this carnival level could potentially give us insight into the janitor's backstory. Interestingly enough, there are a few other very quick shots of this character before the end of the trailer, like this one of Lo and Alone walking across a plank, the new character near the bottom of the screen walking through a door. And this room also appears to be full of pictures on the walls, which are conveniently blurred out, but may give us more insight into how this character fits into the world. To add a bit more credence to the janitor connection, right before this shot we are again also shown some more cages. This shot also focuses on a gnome trapped in a glass jar, which is also interesting because, as I touched on a few years ago, the only time we ever see gnomes in the Little Nightmares universe are places where either the lady or Six, who in all likelihood becomes the lady, has been. We can also see him in this shot here, and the head shape and body proportions does even more closely resemble that of the janitor's, although it doesn't really look like the janitor's signature long arms are present, but it's kinda difficult to tell, as the doors this character is opening obscures most of his arms. The last time we get to see this character is in this shot, chasing Lo, where he's crawling along the ground, and this time we actually get to see one of his hands moving forward. But again, it's very difficult to tell whether these are janitor arms or not. So is this the janitor? I don't know, maybe. I think it's possible, but even if it's not, the visual similarities to the janitor, combined with the repeated motif of the cages alongside this character, and the comment from the developer team about the return of a fan favorite, does seem very intentional to at the very least misdirect us into thinking that the janitor is who we are seeing here. But this could also be some kind of ringmaster or circus owner monster. Consider that in several shots we also see purple jackets on mannequins, which seem like the type of showy thing a ringmaster would wear. Like here, next to what looks like broken green room mirrors, which does seem like something that a ringmaster would probably have. And this jacket is shown to have proportional sleeves instead of really long arms. Also, it looks a lot like the suit that is worn by this ventriloquist guy who appears on the poster at the beginning of the 11-minute gameplay clip, which we'll talk about more soon. If these do belong to this character, then the janitor similarities are, again, likely a red herring from the developers. But then again, all of the Little Nightmares games are filled with all sorts of portraits and paintings of characters that are never seen in-game. We also see a similar purple suit next to a map, which has drawings on it that I think are depicting these strange, guest-like factory workers who hang from hooks at their workstations, and also appear in droves at the carnival, where we get some more information about from the developers, which I'll talk about in a second. But I don't know, quick side note, does anyone else also, like, not really like the design of the supervisor from the factory level? Like, she just honestly feels a bit uninspired and predictable to me. It's like they ran out of ideas and were just like, what if we just did the teacher again, but gave her some other body horror trope instead of a long neck, like, I don't know, a bunch of arms. I just don't feel like she fits in very well with the universe and the art style of the Little Nightmares games. She's, like, close, but not quite. It's like the Uncanny Valley of the Uncanny Valley. I don't know. I might just be picky. Anyway, a second ago I mentioned that we'd talk more about these guest-looking guys, and the other new carnival enemy revealed along with them. And to do that we have to take a break from this trailer and move on to the 11-minute gameplay clip that was also shown at this event, because the developer commentary included can give us some important insight into how these characters may fit into the world of Little Nightmares. Towards the beginning of the clip, as Lone Alone make their way through the carnival, one of the show hosts asks one of the developers who these monsters are, and she responds with, "They're the herd. They represent the dull, grinding monotony of working life." Which is super interesting because it pushes the idea that Little Nightmares is a game series with a message that is told through symbolism, instead of a story that's meant to be taken entirely literally. And what that message is something that I've put quite a bit of thought into, and something that I think I have a pretty clear idea of, this description of the herd being more evidence to it. But I'm saving all that for a future video because there's no way I could get into all of it in a little news video like this. Anyway, one notable mechanic of the herd is that it looks like they will be used directly in gameplay, with one of the developers commenting that the herd will be used to solve puzzles, with the example being shown of Lone Alone distracting one of them with a cart of apples, this creature possessing the same grotesque hunger again displayed by the guests. And it's also worth noting that the original description of the guests from the old Terrasphere website uses the term herded when describing them, so in case the similarities weren't obvious enough. There's also a few scenes of blinded herd bludgeoning other tied up herd like they were piñatas. In the second scene, again, this is used as a puzzle element, where Lo lures the herd over to him, getting him to smash open a gate for him and Alone, or here, where the two solve a puzzle involving dropping a chained herd into a well in order to get up to a platform. The second enemy revolved in this trailer are these guys, which the developers called the puppets, and noted that they are similarly sized enemies to the children, looking a lot like the bullies from the school in Little Nightmares 2, except with much more grotesque faces. They also seem to be the ones staffing the carnival, as we can see them behind the various kiosks and games throughout the place, or at least wearing some sort of uniform like here. They also looked at the same gameplay mechanic as the bullies from Little Nightmares 2, as their heads fall off in several shots from the gameplay demo, and after some close-ups of one of them chasing Lone Alone, we see Alone smash one of the puppets' porcelain heads. The creatures also seem to be the ones making the banging sound in the build-up towards the end of the trailer, as we see one of these monsters banging what looks like a pan against the ground. Okay, that's pretty much everything that stuck out to me in the Little Nightmares 3 content we were shown. Now on to the other stuff, because if I'm being honest, the Little Nightmares 3 news is probably the least interesting thing to come out of this showcase. The first big reveal being that the Little Nightmares audio fiction series, The Sound of Nightmares, is getting a second season, which is certainly cool. I thought the first season was decently interesting, and expanded on the current world of the games in some unique ways, putting the world of the games in some sort of alternate dimension or dream world called the Nowhere, as distinct from this other place where most of the podcast takes place called the Counties, which is maybe set in what's supposed to be the real world? Maybe? It's clearly unclear. It was also confirmed that we are finally getting more Little Nightmares comics, which, if you didn't know, there were 2 Little Nightmares comic book issues published by Titan Comics way back in 2017, around the time the first game came out. There were originally supposed to be 4 comics, but for some reason the series was cancelled after issue 2. And these comics introduced all sorts of concepts we may only just be getting to see play out now, like the Ferryman, who was a central character in the Sounds of Nightmares as the Candleman, the Mirror Man, who was hinted at making an appearance in Little Nightmares 3, and even what looks like the Herd, although these could just be the guests, it's really hard to know for sure. We also got some digital comics in the lead-up for Little Nightmares 2, telling the stories of each of these kids, who I'm guessing were probably planned as playable characters and DLCs for Little Nightmares 2 at some point, as they do have unused in-game models, but they were shelved at some point for unknown reasons. Anyway, this event confirmed the release of a new comic series, also by Titan Comics, and also slated to run 4 issues. Hopefully history doesn't repeat itself. The series is called The Descent to Nowhere, and it's written by Lonnie Nadler, who's the same guy who wrote the podcast, and is well known for writing quite a few Marvel comics, as well as acting as the current narrative director for Little Nightmares, replacing the infamous Dave Mervick. During the interview, Nadler talked about how the comic tells 2 stories, one in the Nowhere about a girl with tape over her mouth named Hush, who befriends Mono, and another in the Counties, which again seems like some version of our world in-universe, about a cynical detective named Maya, who looks for missing children, and judging by the cover, Hush will be the child she ends up pursuing, who's presumably somehow ended up trapped in the Nowhere. We also, predictably enough, got the reveal of a Little Nightmares-based fiction novel, which, like, of course, we somehow always end up here. Every horror game series has to expand into mediocrely written teenage fiction novels and attempt to convince me to read. Nice try, Little Nightmares. However, joke's on you, I don't know how. Anyway, the book is apparently about a girl called Ruse, who's trapped in the carnival with two other kids. Some girl who just, like, apparently spawned in with a noose around her neck, and another masked boy. Looking up the book online, it seems to be called The Lonely Ones, with some creature's face on the cover that kinda looks like the Wax Bellman. It's said to release in September, and is written by E.C. Myers, who has written a bunch of stuff I've never heard of. A lot of it does look pretty derivative of existing properties, but he won awards for it, I guess, so maybe it'll surprise me. Who knows? We also got a reveal for a Little Nightmares VR game, which, from the quick teaser we got, may be related to the Signal Tower from Little Nightmares 2. Whether this is some sort of VR port of the second game, presumably adapted to first person to fit the VR experience, or a new game expanding on that part of the game's world is unknown. But it seemed like this project is pretty early on in development, and we may not hear much about it for a while. Then there was the reveal of a remastered version of the first game, coming out around the same time as the third, which showcases improved graphics with ray tracing and volumetric lighting, likely similar to what was done to the second game back in 2021. As well as that, they showed off a bunch of other pricier versions of the third game with progressively more content and unlockables and stuff, which I don't know how I feel about that, honestly. Barring what looks like a decent amount of the game's content behind an additional paywall that just doesn't come with the main version. I mean, I know they did it to some extent with the first two games, but I don't know, this seems a little bit more excessive. The art book is cool, though. I will definitely be finding a way to get my hands on that. Okay, I saved the best for last. A teaser trailer for a stop-motion Little Nightmares TV show, showing a little girl looking out of a window in a neighborhood of incomplete, dull suburban homes, with a gloomy factory in the distance filling the sky with smog. The girl then opens a present with a card attached reading, "For Amy, may this replica capture your heart." And the card is either signed him or mom. I can't tell. They should really start teaching cursive in schools again. Big mistake. Anyway, the present turns out to be a dollhouse, which this girl opens and is clearly amazed by whatever she sees inside. This is then followed by a shot of what is probably this girl's house. The dollhouse she got does seem to be a replica of, hence the card. Before another shot of the girl waking up to see the dollhouse glowing. After we're finally shown what actually looks like another dollhouse, this one being much more tattered and broken looking, with the girl hunched beside it, before finally her face looking worriedly out of what looks like the attic window of her house. Now this doesn't really give us much to go off of plot-wise. Obviously this dollhouse has some paranormal quality to it, and knowing Little Nightmares, just from the brief scenery we were shown so far, it seems that the world this girl lives in is also likely one that is hostile and dangerous. What, in my opinion, is so exciting about this is that this seems to be the culmination of a project that has been at least 7 years in the making. You see, back in 2017, it was rumored that Little Nightmares would be getting a TV adaptation, with some very notable talent at the helm. Namely Joe Russo, director of Endgame, Infinity War, and most recently the Electric State adaptation, as well as Henry Selick, director of Coraline and The Nightmare Before Christmas, two beloved stop-motion films that fit the Little Nightmares aesthetic very well. And when Selick was asked about the show during an interview with Discussing Film in 2022, he said that he did a lot of writing for it, but was unsure of the state of its production. And given the stop-motion nature of this recently revealed project, I have a feeling that this long-time shelved TV series is what we are seeing here come to fruition. Okay, yeah, I know what I said. No more news videos, but look, I honestly just kind of wanted to dip my toes back into making videos because I hadn't in so long, and starting like some huge video essay project just seemed kind of daunting to me, but that is coming soon. I am getting to it, I promise. And yeah, I know I also posted on my community tab that I'd have this video out day of the event, and that's just because I forgot how long it takes me to make one of these. In the year of not making videos, I just kind of assumed that, yeah, I can get these things done in like one day. And like, I have a few times, but that's when I just spend the entire day working on the video, which I'm afraid to say I did not do. So yeah, 5 days late as usual. MoltenMonsters Classic. Oh my gosh. Also, I got my haircut. That's the big thing. I think this is maybe the best one ever. There've been some bad ones. Okay, you guys know there have been some bad ones. This one's good though. I think if I could take something to make my hair stop growing at this length, I think I would right now. But yeah, that's kind of all the new MoltenMonsters lore. Okay. What do I normally say at the end of these? I forgot. Oh my gosh. Like, subscribe, comment, join the Discord to increase all that watch time and other stuff that I pretend not to care about. And goodbye. I will see you in the next one.